a journey on Route 66, this one in northern Illinois. Along the route, you can see many themed tie-ins to either Route 66 or Illinois culture, like the Blues Brothers car on top of a pole. This is a photo of Mrs. Tiger and my tiger with the Gemini Giant in Wilmington, Illinois. We have a complete video on the Gemini Giant, which I will link above and in the description. Almost any business on Route 66 has Route 66 in its name. And don't forget, there's also natural beauty along Route 66, which one shouldn't overlook. Our first stop today is Braidwood, Illinois, population 6,200, and the home of the Polka Dot Drive-In. The city gets its name from James Braidwood, a steamship engineer who immigrated to the United States from Scotland in 1863, and who was instrumental in the development of the coal mines in Will County. The Polka Dot Drive-In, established in 1956 by Chester Fife, is a restaurant designated as a very special must-stop by the National Historic Route 66 group. The first incarnation of this classic drive-in was a school bus covered with rainbow-colored polka dots, from which the owner took fast food orders. Fife relocated the business to the current building in 1962. Adding to the blast from the past are life-size fiberglass figures of Elvis Presley, the Blues Brothers, Superman, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, and Betty Boop, all displayed along the outside walls. The question always arises, why so much Blues Brothers? The film itself is about a Chicago blues band, and the opening scene is taken at the old prison in Joliet, Illinois, which is the subject of one of our future videos. While the late John Belushi is from Chicago, Dan Aykroyd was born in Ottawa, Canada. Being our first stop, it was still morning, and the Polka Dot Drive-In was not yet open. It seemed that most of the attractions are open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This, of course, does not include businesses. The inside has a retro styling with chrome tables and chairs, black and white tile flooring, and a jukebox. Here we'll pan around as we show the tiger and the parking lot of the Polka Dot and say goodbye to the Polka Dot Drive-In in Braidwood, Illinois. On to our next destination, Gardner, Illinois, where we find a business decorated in Route 66 memorabilia. Like most towns on Route 66 in Illinois, Gardner owes its existence to the Chicago and Alton Railroad that passes through the town. Our railway chief engineer, Henry Gardner, and his partners, J.C. Spencer and C.H. Gold, had bought the land knowing the course the tracks would take. They platted the town in 1854 and named it after Gardner. The population of Gardner, Illinois is 1,420. This is a quick service establishment that again was not yet open, but was festive in the spirit of the route. As mentioned, Route 66 follows the train track, and I noticed that trains love blowing their horns, especially at night around campgrounds. This is typical markings on the route, helping lead you in the correct direction. One to the attraction, in this case the two-cell jail, and the other is guiding you back on Route 66. the license plates of the states that Route 66 passes through, courtesy of that quick-serve restaurant. The historic two-cell jail was built in 1906. The jail actually kept prisoners up until the 1950s, before it was closed, but not torn down. After having been restored by the local community, it became a Route 66 roadside attraction. Inside, we can see the two cells and the container for necessities, as well as the pot-bellied stove. Panning back, we'll get a glimpse of the old-time lighting. In front of the two-cell jail is a monument to those that served their country from Gardner, Illinois. These are some historic photos of the Riviera Roadhouse, which burnt down in 2010. The roadhouse was lost, but the horse-drawn streetcar was moved next to the two-cell jail. The Riviera Roadhouse was built in 1928. Incorporating parts of a former church, a dry goods store, and a mining office. The Riviera soon attracted the famous and the infamous Al Capone, and his brother Ralph were occasional guests, as was Tom Mix, the silent film star who appeared in 336 westerns between 1910 and 1935. Also visiting the Riviera were Illinois governors Henry Horner, Dwight Green, Adlai Stevenson II, and William Scranton. The Riviera became known as Al Capone's hideout. This 20th century horse-drawn streetcar from Kankakee, Illinois, was moved to Gardner in 1932 to serve as a diner. In 1937, the streetcar became a cottage and playhouse. It was moved behind the Riviera in 1955. It was restored by the Route 66 Association of Illinois and inducted into the Route 66 Hall of Fame in 2001. The Riviera burned down June 8, 2010. It was a 100% loss. After the fire burned down the Riviera, the streetcar was moved here next to the two-cell jail and remains a reminder of things that once were. This is a section of Route 66 from Gardner to our next destination, Dwight, Illinois. Dwight, Illinois has a population of 4,260. The town is named for Henry Dwight, who funded most of the building of this part of the railroad. These Route 66 signs are the typical signage we have seen so far on the drive. They give an overview of the area and the sights that can be seen nearby. Those that don't remember, there was a time when attendants wore uniforms, pumped your gas, cleaned your windshield, checked your oil, and gasoline was around 30 cents a gallon. This is Ambler's Texaco gas station, also known as Vernon's Texaco station and Becker's Marathon gas station. The station gets its name from longtime manager Basil "Tubby" Ambler, who operated the station from 1938 to 1966. The original 1933 building Jack Shore built consisted of an office with wood clapboard siding, an arched roof with asphalt shingles, and residential windows adorned with shutters and flower boxes. Extending out from the office over 3 Texaco gas pumps was a sheltering canopy supported by 2 tapered columns. In the early 1940s, following a national trend that saw gas stations evolve to full-service garages, Mr. Ambler added a service bay, a simple concrete block, to the north side of the original building. Although he left the station in 1966, the station continued servicing motorists until nearly the turn of the 21st century, making it one of the oldest continually operated service stations along the Mother Road. Cigarette advertising was not only commonplace, but pervasive. Viceroy was one of the top brands at the time. Here we see an ad on the outside of the garage and a newspaper ad for the same brand. Inside the garage is a collection of items, including an old piece of fire apparatus, the last gas pumps used on Route 66, and a chance to take a picture as a Texaco attendant. As we pan across the parking lot, we see the Tiger, a view of a billboard for Dwight, Illinois, Mrs. Tiger, and charging stations for electric vehicles, a sign of the times. Down the road is Odell, Illinois, with a population of less than 1,000. Traffic through Odell along early US 66 was quite heavy at times. The students and those going to St. Paul's Church had to dodge traffic to get across the road. Authorities built a pedestrian tunnel which locals named the subway so that the neighbors could cross the street safely. It was built in 1937 and remained in use until the bypass Route 66 was built in 1944. The tunnel was filled in the 1950s, sealing it off. The Route 66 Association of Illinois dug up the first 3 steps, exposing the concrete structure in 2006. They added new railings that are a replica of the original ones and completed their work with adequate signs about the pedestrian underpass. This Standard Oil service station was built by Patrick O'Donnell in 1932, just 6 years after Route 66 was aligned through Odell. He used the 1910s house and canopy, or domestic style. It was just that, a gabled house with a gabled canopy. 2 garage bays were added later. O'Donnell sold Standard Oil gasoline and oil, but later switched to Phillips 66 and Sinclair. In 1952, he rented it to Robert Close, who ran the cafe next to it. Close sold gas until the 1970s and used the building as a repair shop. He sold it to the village of Odell in 1999, who wanted to restore it. Inside the garage, there are numerous items used in automobile repair from various eras, as well as Route 66 merchandise. The garage has its original tin ceiling, which has seen better days. This travel trailer next to the gas station was a bonus treat. I took a walk to the rear of the station and filmed what seemed to be an endless sea of cornfields. I imagined what the early travelers encountered when they first drove this historic roadway, and what a treat it must have been just to see any civilization. This is one of a continuing video series on our travels on Route 66. Stay tuned, and as always, thank you for watching.